Hello and welcome to another Irish Film London podcast. I'm Niamh Brannigan and I'm joined with the head of Irish Film London, Jerry Maguire. And before we hand you over to today's episode, myself and Jerry are going to chat through all things film and TV this week. So Jerry, you're back with me this week. I was all alone last time.
I know, I'm so sorry to have left you, Niamh.
That's okay, you're welcome back anytime. And before last week's episode, I briefly chatted about the Galway Film Festival. So tell me, how was your FLA experience?
Yeah, I mean, my FLA experience was a good one. Like most people, it was an online only experience. So I think we talked about this really briefly the last time I was on, but the FLA was able to confirm a program of events for people quite late because of the changing goalposts for lockdown regulations and who can go to events and where they can be and so on. They were able to do a few live, like in-person screenings in places like Father Burke Park in Galway, but most of the festival was online. So I did my festival online. And I actually did most of my festival from my mum and dad's place in Fermanagh. So I watched like all of the films that I watched were watched in between, like running around with my kids and my cousins and stuff around a house in Lisnaskea. So
you couldn't get them all to sit down and watch some really intense shorts and documentaries and no?
Niamh, I couldn't get them to, even if I wanted to, I wouldn't be able to get them to sit through a meal together. Like they're not going to sit through a film. They're like, no, it's just no. But the FLA was good. The FLA selection was excellent. They really knocked it out of the park. I think there was a really, really strong showing of Irish and international films, international films with an Irish connection, I guess. I really, really, really enjoyed the Andrea Riseborough film by new director Stacey Gregg called Here Before, which was really, really tense thriller. I've spoken to some people about who've also saw it at Galway. I've spoken to them about it in the meantime, and we all agree that like it's a film that William at Galway, when he introduced it to people, he said, this is a thriller where the less you know going into it, the better. And that's absolutely the case. It was really, really beautiful to go through it. There's a moment where things sort of unravel and become clear, and like the truth of the matter is revealed, and it's somehow much more devastating than the mystery that precedes it, you know. And that's a really good aspect for a thriller when it hits home and you're still kind of thrilled and terrified and taken aback by it. That's
amazing,
you know. And that's Stacey Gregg's debut feature. And if you can access, I'm not sure if people can access the Q&A that she did at Galway afterwards, unless they've already had bought a ticket at the FLA, but it's really, really worth hunting out. She's one to watch for sure. Andrea Riseborough pulls off a very, very convincing accent. I mean, like, Andrea is not Irish. She's from, if I remember correctly, she's from Wallsend originally.
And it's the hardest accent to do without sounding like a leprechaun.
Yeah. Andrea's great though. She's a really, really great actress. Like I've always been a fan. But that was great. That was definitely, I think, my favorite film of the festival. I also watched a really powerful documentary called Pure Grit, which was about a Native American girl whose dream was to race horses, do this bareback racing that's part of their culture. It's a story that follows these characters over years and just shows their grit and determination, I suppose, to follow the title. Probably worth mentioning as well that there was an Irish London film, not to confuse people further on our name or anything, but like there was a film which one of the directors was Irish. It's a film called A Brixton Tale, and that was one of the directors of that film was Irish, and it was featured in the official selection at the FLA. That was good fun. That held me all the way through. There's a couple that I missed just because I couldn't get time away from the kids. I missed Fosca, which is the Irish language one with Donal O'Healy.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm going to have to try and catch up on that somehow. And I was really looking forward to watching Mark Cousins' new film, A Story of Looking. It's based on the book that he wrote about the same thing a few years ago. Yeah, and I didn't get a chance to see that, so sorry, Mark. I'll try and catch that again soon, because I'm really interested in that. And because I wasn't there at the FLA myself, I didn't get to see Love Yourself Today, which is the new Damien Dempsey biopic, I suppose. That played live at the festival. It wasn't online, so it had like a theatrical public screening. I have seen the film, but I'd just love to see it with other people.
Yeah, I'd say it was very magical to have that in person.
Yeah, it's a film. When that comes out, and I know that it's slated for release around October, November this year. When that comes out, that's going to be a special and magical moment. Mark my words. That's going to be a really, really impactful thing for people. If you have ears and are a person, then you will enjoy this film.
It's a kind of like prime time for film festivals. It's just like
totally.
There's so much going on, and also it's a sign of a good festival when you didn't get to see everything you wanted to because it was just too much, you know.
It's a good point.
Yeah,
it's a good point. It makes me feel less bad about not seeing everything.
Exactly. And I think the next film festival lined up is the Edinburgh Film Festival.
That's right. Yeah. So there is some Irish representation at the Edinburgh Film Festival as well, which is relevant to today's podcast.
Yeah, The Bright Side is in there, directed by Ruth Meehan, which is our podcast today. And there's also Everybody's Talking About Jamie, which is going to be a lot of fun, with Sharon Horgan is in. I'm very excited for that.
That will be fun.
And you were saying Martyrs Lane as well, with Denise Goff is in there.
That's right. Yeah. Honorable mention for Martyrs Lane, because yours truly was the production manager on it a couple of years ago.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And when we were talking a few weeks or months ago about going back to the cinema for the first time, the film that I went to see was like a cast and crew screening of Martyrs Lane at the Riverside in Hammersmith.
Oh, amazing. That's fairly satisfying now for your first cinema experience back to go to a film that you were working on. That's very cool.
Do you know what it did? It really helped to condense the time between finishing the film and like being in lockdown and all that stuff. You know, it helped to sort of like, because the last time I saw that massive group of people that we shot the film with was one of the last like jobs that we did before Christmas that year.
Wow.
And then to be able to go back into the cinema, and you know, we're all wearing our masks and social distancing and all that kind of stuff, but like to be in there and to be able to stand in the room with them and all again, it was very sort of a normalizing experience, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That actually kind of reminds me then as well of another film festival that's coming up. A very exciting one is the Toronto International Film Festival. And I know a film that we're going to chat about called Wolf. I know that was the first independent film supported by Screen Ireland to shoot during COVID-19. Once the production was like all safely done and everything. I think that was one of the first kind of ones back, which was really cool.
Yeah, I'm nodding enthusiastically over here. Yeah, Wolf. So Wolf is a film by, and I hope I pronounce her name correctly, Natalie Biancheri, an Italian director. It's her second feature film, but it features Lily Rose Depp, George Mackay, and our friends Lola Pettigrew and Fionn O'Shea are both in it, and a few others. Martin McCann features, I believe. So it's also worth me mentioning, if you are listening to this on its day of release, which should be Tuesday, the 17th of August, in the year of our Lord 2021, then this very evening, we have got a screening of Emer Reynolds' brilliant documentary, Songs for While I'm Away, a biopic film around the life of Phil Lynott of Thin Lizzy fame. That's at the Bertha Dockhouse at 6:20 p.m. this evening. But if you're a person from the future, then you can try and come down to the following weekend. Come down the same weekend to.
That's not confusing at all.
Not at all. Just come to the cinema, guys. Come on. Come to the Rio in Dalston on Saturday the 21st, and you can try and catch the 8th, which, if you have listened to any Irish Film London chat this year at all, you should know is a documentary about the repeal of the Eighth Amendment in Ireland. It's a great documentary, very powerful. Both of those have director Q&As attached to them, by the way. And then on Sunday, if you want something that's not a documentary necessarily, we've got a selection of short films that are playing at the Rio on Sunday afternoon, specially selected for these August screenings that we're doing. And because I'm talking about the August screenings, I am duty bound to mention that they are the result of some funding that we got through from the BFI Film Audience Network via a program called Film Feels Hopeful. And our screening series is imaginatively titled The Irish for Hope, responding to the idea that we all want to feel hopeful, that hopefully we are feeling all a bit hopeful in emerging from a difficult old period. And we're celebrating at Irish Film London by dragging you into the very hopeful space of like a dark room where you can all sit facing the same direction and watch some pretty images. But yeah, come and join us and
drop everything what you're doing and go and book tickets. Well, listen to the podcast first, and then go and book your tickets.
That's the perfect scenario for me, really. Yeah.
Great. And another film that's going to be in, I think it's the 46th Toronto International Film Festival, which is very cool. But another Irish film that's going to be premiering there is Irish horror film You Are Not My Mother. So congratulations to writer and director Kate Dolan and to the team of You Are Not My Mother. This film was part of a funding scheme from Screen Ireland to support new and emerging female filmmaking talent with distinctive voices. So its world premiere is going to be on in the Midnight Madness program at the festival in September, and which is really cool, one of 6 selected for the Midnight Madness from around the world. Yeah, so very, very impressive all around.
That's excellent. Yeah, I can't wait to see that as well. That sounds really exciting.
So that's Kate Dolan's first feature. And then another lady who's just done her first feature, this seems like a theme in our chat today, is Ruth Meehan, who I chat to today in today's episode with actor Gemma-Leah Devereux, who stars in The Bright Side, which is about a female comic who learns she has breast cancer. And it's a really touching, relatable story. And I have a lovely chat with the two ladies, and I hope you all enjoy it. Thanks, Jerry.
Thanks, Niamh.
Okay, welcome, Ruth and Gemma-Leah, to the Irish Film London podcast. So delighted to have you both on with us today.
Hello.
Hi.
First of all, I just wanted to say congratulations on a beautiful film. It's full to the brim of gorgeous performances and meaning. It's also particularly impressive because it's Ruth's debut feature film. So Ruth, I saw at the end that it was inspired by, I want to get this right now, Anne Gilday's memoir, I've Got Cancer, What's Your Excuse? And it was also dedicated to Alacoque and Mago, I hope I got those right, and warrior women everywhere. So Ruth, talk us through the process of book to screen, when you first came about the project, dealing with it with such care and respect, and then also like alongside your own inspiration and life experiences.
Well, thank you so much for the lovely compliment for the film. I'm delighted that you enjoyed it. And yeah, it's been a long old road to get to here. So finally it's going to be released later this month on the 20th with Breakout Films here in Ireland. And hopefully people in the UK will get to see it as part of the Edinburgh Film Festival online for a few days on the 20th. But it started many moons ago. I kind of think it was 2014 or 15. And
wow.
It's Alico and Mago. It was my sister and my best friend. And they both had very unusual names and they were very unusual women. And I guess it was a year after I think Alico had died, and I was going to India to kind of recover. I think I was probably grief struck, but I didn't probably realize it. And I just picked up a book of Anne I saw in the airport on the way, Anne Gildea, and she was in college with me. And it was just wonderful. I just thought it was so irreverent and funny and honest, actually. And I didn't, at that point, I was working with Jean Pasley, who wrote the film with me. We were trying to find a story to write, and I really didn't think I was in any great space to write. And I thought, so when I came across the book, I wasn't thinking of it like that. I was just reading it and enjoying it in India. And it was actually the humor and also, like I said, the honesty, and it made me feel kind of close to my sister, I think, because she had a wicked sense of humor, and I had this feeling that I kind of connect to her, not just tonally, just some way through the material. And I wrote to Anne when I was in India, and I wrote to Jean, and I just said, like, Anne, I think there's, you know, you've been through an awful lot, I've been through a lot. Maybe there's something we could do with the not her story, like the character she was. The Kate's character that Gemma-Leah played is based on the Anne's character, but the story is a creation of Jean and I. So it's not a kind of biography of her, but I would like to think it has an emotional truth for all the women who are the storytellers that are part of this film, which is what we were, I guess, really looking for and where our focus was the whole time. And that's how you know, it came about, really. Myself and Jean optioned her book, and then Screen Ireland were really supportive in helping develop the project over a couple of years. It always takes, it's always surprising how long it takes to develop something, and you kind of think, are we all thick? Why can't we just write something and make it? You know? And yet, you know, I hear about novelists, and they write like 1,000-page novel, and then they do a rewrite, and then they're done. And you're kind of going, you know, scripts, but I guess scripts are more like design and more like poems, and they're more like music, and they're, you know, they're very they're made, it's an amazing craft and art form itself. So the good thing about this one was I felt we were always moving closer to it. Sometimes you can feel like you're just moving in circles or treading water or going in the wrong direction, whereas with this it seemed to show us a little bit more as we went, which is really, you know, makes it bearable, to be honest. Makes a very difficult process.
Were there times over the process and development of just kind of you going, here, let's just pack it in, like that frustration kind of getting too much, or was it always like, no, we have to do this, we're gonna keep following suit and keep the faith?
You know, this was the first. I've developed a couple of features over the years. This was the first one where from the moment I picked up Anne's book, something in me went, I'm making this. Like, if I have to fucking bend reality, I have to make it on sellotape. Like, it was just a case of how were we going to do it? I just felt from the start, this is, and maybe, you know, we don't understand the emotions that are running the show sometimes. And perhaps I was, you know, rocket fueled on grief for all I knew. Do you know, like, you don't know where that kind of, every time a disappointment happened, which of course it would with every project, things come together and fall apart. I just kept thinking, okay, well, that's not happening, so that's just not part of it. You know, I just really felt this one was coming. So I got disappointed, of course, when things were delayed or they didn't. But I did feel there was a lot of support for it from the start, especially with Screen Ireland. So, you know, there was, if something wasn't working, it was a sense of how to make it work rather than let's dump this.
Yeah, brilliant. Exactly. Just that's so great. A support system, a strong support system is just so important pre and during and post kind of any creative experience, but definitely I think with getting films off the ground, Irish films off the ground, because it's so difficult. And Gemma-Leah, I wanted to chat about your character Kate. Obviously, she has a moderately successful career as a comic, in the sense that people would recognize her, which would be quite rare for kind of, you know, comedians. So kind of to have that slight celebrity status, even if it's only in Leitrim, is quite cool. But there's also a strong sense of Kate feeling quite lost and misunderstood as a woman in her mid-30s, which I really enjoyed, because I really liked seeing a woman not having it all together at that age, which was quite refreshing to see on screen. So what was it that kind of attracted you to Kate, and how did you come about The Bright Side?
I came away the bright side the same way as everyone does. You know, your agent puts you up for something. Actually, Amy really fought for me. Amy Rowan, she had really loved my work and put me forward. And I don't think Ruth, now to be honest, she really wanted me at all. I don't think I was in her mindset really, to be honest. And then I sent a tape in, and Ruth wanted to meet me. But if I go back to kind of the dark horse, always the dark horse. But the thing is, if I go back to the start of when I got the script, when I read the script, everything about it, there was just so much that I related to. I mean, Kate in general, as exactly what you're saying, you know, in the 30s, not having everything together, someone who kind of as well has so much anger, can't find her purpose, doesn't really know where she is in life. Is really lost, you know. And I think in general as well, there's not many female roles you read that, I mean, this, I don't know, as soon as I read the script, I was like, I have to play this part. Like, I just knew it would push me to every single limit. And I kind of really wanted to go on the journey with her from the start. So I don't know, I gunned for it basically. And I finally got to meet Ruth, and I met Ruth, did the audition. And then I think I was like meeting them, I don't know, it was the third or fourth time. I think by the fourth time I was just like, why aren't they giving me the role? I can do this role. I need to do this. Like, there was something in me that needed to do it. I don't know, there was just something, I was so connected. And then when I met, they offered me right then and there, which I think I started crying at the time. So I think I was like, oh my God. And then it's funny, as I always say, you gun for the role and then you're so happy when you finally get it, but then you actually have to do it. So it's a whole different thing, isn't it? You have to kind of put yourself into it. But I don't know, everything about the script, the fact it's so, I mean, Ruth just did such a brilliant job in writing it, and you really did, Ruth, you know, and everything, all the characters are just so people you know, and completely relatable. And I just think Kate as a person as well, there's so much about her that's flawed, which I love, you know. I mean, and I got to do and say such horrible things and such crazy things. But you know, that's the thing about the script. One minute it's really funny, and the next minute it's so heartbreaking. So I don't know, to go on the journey was amazing. And I knew as well, you know, I was shaving my head for it, and there was just so many places. And I kind of feel, as me and Ruth always say, we kind of jumped off it together and kind of said, we're going to do this and we're going to do it together. And I kind of really felt like that. And I haven't had many, like, if any, project like that where, you know, me and the director are just so entwined in this story, and we're both giving it our absolute all to make it, you know, work. And you know, that's all you can do, right, with the script and any part, give it your all. And if it turns out trumps, then you're kind of happy. So
exactly. And I think like Kate was just so refreshing to me, in the sense I saw a thing during the week on Instagram, and it was like the top 10 kind of powerful scenes, and it was these 10 scenes from these kind of Hollywood films of just 10 different men, you know, like really well-known male actors just shouting, you know, screaming. And if that was like previous, you know, if that was a woman, it would be irrational or emotional or, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I think to that particular scene, I'm not going to ruin anything for the people who are going to watch it, but that particular scene with Kate in the lake, you know, where she just kind of lets loose and just kind of says these awful things, and, you know, and for it not to be branded as, you know, an emotional woman, or, you know, she doesn't know what she's talking about, or, you know, all this kind of stuff. It's just like, no, I'm actually, this character is just really going through stuff, and this is what's coming out, you know.
And just a human being, just an absolute human being. But also that, I mean, the whole scene absolutely tore shreds out of me. I was that was the last scene we shot on the movie, and we were trying to get the magic out because the light and whatever, and then we stopped, and I was bawling, crying, and everyone thought it was because we laughed, but I was like, it actually tore bits of my soul away. It just was like, I gave so much to that scene. I just think as well, it's just such hideous things that I'm coming, I don't know, anyway.
No, definitely.
I mean, anyone hasn't seen it, but you know, it tore bits of my soul out doing it. And but then at the same time, when you're Kate, you know, when you're that character, was so engrossed in Kate at that point, that's what I needed to do as well. Do you know, it's kind of like this vomit that she needs to get out. So but I do think that's so true. There's, you know, women are always portrayed in so many things, and it's changing. It is changing, you know, like even when I watch certain things back now, you see how far we've come. We have so much further to go, but there is a huge change in everything, in roles that are coming out, and women being allowed to be messy instead of, you know, if they're angry, instead of them being bitchy. It's just that, you know what I mean? There's just so many different things happening with everything at the moment, with the world and the way the women are perceived. So I think this script definitely has that, which I love.
But I was just that scene as well, and I know, but there were scenes when we were writing, and sometimes Jean and I wrote together, and some scenes we wrote. But I remember that one in particular, I remember writing it and going, no, she can't say that. That's, you know, she can't say that. And like, it's so interesting because I would never like there's the difference between the writer and the character. And I remember standing up from the desk and walking away, no. And I'm going, well, she is, because that's where she is. And that's where, there was a couple of scenes like that where she was behaving in ways that I really thought were objectionable.
Disagree. You really disagreed with. I disagree with this.
Yeah, I was like, no, don't do that. Please don't do that. And that's probably the most interesting. And yeah, like it is. I think that's when a piece of work is speaking itself.
So much of it stays with you though as well. It really does. Oh my God. Like, I mean, so much of Kate stayed with me for weeks after. I was so angry after that film, and I didn't even realize how angry I was. I was just so angry. The person who was with me did realize that. Yeah, I was very angry. I was like, oh,
I was actually just going to ask that, Gemma-Leah. The what was your kind of research like for did you do a lot of research with other women, prior to the role, and also kind of how did you step out of it, or maybe you didn't, because like it is quite a taxing role, so I imagine it's kind of hard sometimes to shake that off going home to family or friends, or because you're, as you said, you're so deep into it, and maybe other actors who are listening as well can relate to that as well, that kind of it's tough to find that separation, as with writer to character. How do you find that separation from actor to person?
Well, I think research-wise is always one of my. But I mean, there's the process of doing my job. I just love my job. So like every process is great. Like every bit of it's great. Like every step of it's great, because when you're doing it, it's great. When you're auditioning, it's great. But I think when you're researching, I just love all the research. I think with this particular one, and having done roles where I've had to kind of go into places and learn how to shoot up heroin, or with this one, it's a lot more of a delicate subject that you don't want to be kind of around many people who are and going into places and being like, I knew people obviously that had suffered from cancer. I did a lot of research. I watched a lot of things and really engrossed myself completely in it. And then I think by the time I always make a book for a character, so everything I've ever done, I have a book of a character, I have all my script. Ruth will know this, because I get so weird about my book. I'm like, where's my book? Like on set, I'll be like, I need my book with me. It's really weird. Like I'll even be looking at lines before scenes, even though I know it all. It's like a really weird, like it gets me into it. And also just like I'll have loads of notes on things and pictures and everything. All these notes has like in this book, so I'll have all that with me. And I think as regarding keeping on to the character, I mean, in this especially, we were filming full time for weeks and weeks and weeks. I'm in every scene of it. And it is such a role that really pushed me kind of to the limit of something that, I haven't done before. And so, yeah, I don't think I did let it go. I mean, to be honest, like by the time you get home anyway, you roll into bed, don't you, after work, like after filming all day, and then you kind of get back up again. But like, I also obviously shaved my head. So, I mean, I think a lot of my family found that quite hard to see, because to them, I just look really tired and sick, which I probably really was tired and sick halfway during filming. But, and I don't really think, I thought I kind of had, I mean, I know when we filmed that last scene, and that stuck with me all day, and I really wasn't right after that scene. Like I really, really wasn't until like the day or so after. And I was like, that's fine. But I don't think I really realized how much she was in me still until about, I think, 3 weeks after, because straight afterwards I went on kind of like a road trip around Ireland to kind of take a break kind of thing. But, I was obviously still completely bald, and people are very starey over here, I don't know, or anywhere really, to be honest, but in Ireland I don't think you see it as much. And I think as well, it just was really with me. I don't think I really realized anyway until she kind of actually went. Then I was like, oh, actually, I feel so much lighter. It was a really weird disconnection, numbness, and anger that was just completely surrounding me. So I'm sorry to anybody who's listening to this that was around me then, because I don't think I realized how bad I was.
But I think it's really refreshing for you to admit that, you know what I mean? And because I think a lot of people like, no, yeah, like I can just shake it off when I walk off set. It's not that easy. And it is taxing on you and sometimes people that you love who are around you. And it's a tough job, it's not just kind of dressing up and saying your lines in front of a camera.
Yeah, they deserve a prize. I should bring them out now. I'm actually like, Jesus.
You said it now, so if they're listening, they're going to hold you to this. But you touched on it there as well, quite briefly, that I did want to chat to you about there's a scene where Kate shaves her head. She decides to shave her hair before going into chemo, and it's also a really gorgeous moment between her and her niece as well, which really touched me. So yeah, like talk me through that scene. What was that process like? Was it scary or kind of exciting, or a bit of both?
I really feel that, I mean, it sounds like I'm going to do anything for a role. I won't, but I really feel once it's completely based in truth, I will do anything for a role. And I think at the time we were all talking about the shaving of the head, it was kind of something that just had to be done, didn't it, Ruth? Because I mean, I couldn't not have, especially if you're using a ball cap and the amount of time it takes to even put them on, and then you can't use certain angles and it just goes on and on and on. And I think it was something that needed to be done. And also it was something that really connected me to Kate, to be honest. But also as well, I mean, it's not real, like I'm shaving my head. It's not, you got to try and be like, it's not, it's just hair, it grows back, it's completely fine. Like, I don't mind pushing myself to those places. And I think it did completely help. I don't know if you thought that, Ruth, but I definitely think it helped connect everything,
I know we had a lot of discussion beforehand because
yeah, of course.
I wasn't asking lightly either, because I thought it's a really big deal for anybody. But I think we knew that there was no way to fake that on our budget anyway, and on any budget probably, so, well, millions and millions, but I think that scene is incredible. I remember when we filmed it as well, Gemma-Leah.
I do too.
We were so upset, and I think something in that, action of a woman taking her hair off in front of a child as well, and there is just something so poignant and real, and it's part of so many women's experience and it is like our hair. We can be upset if our hair isn't the right. Oh, look, we're looking at ourselves. Oh, our hair. Look at my hair, and you kind of go. The nakedness and the vulnerability of that moment is very. I think it speaks about the loss of that illness for people, and it's not. There's fear of mortality and all of that, but there's the thing about there's being a woman, there's something about femininity, and like, not that we are our hair or we are our breasts, but the way we feel about that, and in fact, I think Anne, I don't remember the lines, but in the book, I think she wrote about that, and I must have felt that that's a central connection that any woman who has been through this would know. And I just felt the day we shot it, I was crying, you were crying. There was something so upsetting. Just
everyone was crying. Yeah. It was, and I was making an absolute balls job. I was just like, oh.
I mean, I don't want people to think that all you do in this film is watch anger and tears, because the whole thing is that she was using comedy, and it is irreverent, and it is, these are the moments we sink beneath the mask, and that's what I loved about and what I think Gemma-Leah did brilliantly as well is, the comedy as the mask, the exterior, the way that the hard shell and what it takes to crack it, and the love and the connection and the fun and the humor. That does that.
I think the shaving of the head as well, though, was like, it was as well liberating in a different way as well, though, because I do think as a woman you're kind of known for your looks or what you look like, and especially in our careers as well, what you look like on screen. And I'm not me on screen, I'm someone else, and there's something about taking all that back and being just a blank canvas of just trying to show where you were. So I mean, there was definitely something quite liberating about it as well. But I think, you're completely right. I don't think the whole film is about, that's why I love the script, because it's not. There are heartbreaking moments, and that is definitely one of them, and one that a lot of people, and my heart goes out to all of them that relate to it, who have to do it properly, in real life. Like, this isn't real. But then there's also the moments that are just so funny, and that's the whole thing, funny, and then the next moment crying. So
and it was balanced really well, really beautifully with her niece as well. It wasn't that she's kind great. Of she's so great, and it wasn't that, because it could have been, it is so powerful, and it is a very emotional scene. But I think having her there it also made it more of just a reality, and just like, this is just how things are. As well.
It was one of the first things we shot as well. So we kind of jumped on the roller coaster, and then off we went, didn't we? I mean, that was it. It was like, the hair's gone, this is what we're doing, off you go.
And in fact, when my sister died, her daughter was 8 or something, and it is that presence of children who ask they just look and see what they're seeing, they're asking, saying things straight out, and they undo us with their truth, really, with just calling things and questioning them as they see them. So
I would love to talk about female comics, because I think female comics always seem to get a particularly hard time because, as we all know, women aren't funny. And this film really feels like a bit of a punch in the guts back to that statement. And I thought it's quite refreshing the way that Kate uses her experience with cancer as an outlet through her comedy. You know, she's not just talking about men and that kind of stuff that that female comedians kind of get boxed into. But I did want to ask, have either of you done stand-up before? Because I feel like if you've done stand-up, you can do anything.
I mean, it terrifies me. Like, to be honest, I had to do it before, and I was not good at it. And I made a joke that I'm not even going to risk, like, to say, and everyone looked scared, and I got off the stage. And do you know what the funniest thing about The Bright Side is that, you know, again, it's not real. Ruth has wrote this beautiful, you know, wrote this beautiful big things for me. We did the stand up for over 2 days, and people are paid to laugh at me, and I still find it terrifying. So I have so much respect for comics, like fair play to you, because it's a whole different thing, isn't it? I think like with acting, I feel like I can always jump into a character, and same thing as what you're saying, Ruth, about like the mask. I feel definitely with me, I have a mask on when I'm playing a character and I'm in someone else's shoes and no one can see, you know. Well, I feel like comics, I know technically maybe you're using a different part of you, but there is definitely, the mask is down a lot more. It's so vulnerable.
So like, exposing.
Oh my God. Like,
I mean, I think one thing that Gemma-Leah, you were incredibly brave in every aspect of the role, in terms of the emotional and the comedic. And what I mean by that is,
thank you, Ruth.
Like, well, you hadn't a clue what you were doing, and neither did I. So, like, in terms of us doing stuff for the first time, but I think what was very powerful about that was the only way you can do that and have half a chance of something working is if you go for it 100%. You know, and I think that I really saw you do that, and I did my utmost to do that. And I mean, I think we saw that in each other. You know, it was an incredible cast, but I was asking Gemma-Leah every day to be brave, really. And you know, years ago, I did a course with, what's her name, Acting for Directors. And it was terrifying for me. It's, you know, it's all very well to say action, but when you say cut, you have to have something to offer, you know. And I found it wonderful to get in touch with just that vulnerability, being in front of the camera, and the fear and also the excitement. I actually got a taste of, oh wow, this was like, and it works, you know. And but I was very conscious of trying my best to create the environment that we could be emotional, or, you know, and also even like that, those, when we were doing the stand-up, it's like there's something powerful about just going, we're not going to try and work out how do you do this correctly. We're just going to do it 100%, but show up and do what's here for us to do.
Yeah.
I
can't work like that anyway. I mean, I you know, and I think definitely the way you work as such an actress director, Ruth, anyway, you know, it's like you come along, you wouldn't be like, go stand there and do this. It's like, this is like, because I'm just like creatively, I'm like, let me just try it, and then you could be like, don't do that. You know. But even with stand-up, yeah, completely, it was just like, go up, try it again. They're still laughing, by the way, 2 days later, they're still laughing at me. I was like, great, grand, you know.
I think the comment as well on how much of a man's world comedy kind of is as well was really nicely kind of contrasting with, obviously, then the kind of crew that Kate is surrounded by with the other women in the chemo. But the comment of how much comedy is such a man's world kind of chat to me through that as well, because I think that was done really well. Like, obviously also the dark humor of, you know, some people get all the good drugs, you know, it's just some people have all the luck. I just thought that was so great. But yeah, what was that kind of process like?
Well, it was very deliberate, really, because I mean, Anne in her book would have talked a lot about, especially when she was doing it. It was I mean, there's a lot more opportunities, but it's this idea that women aren't funny, and I don't understand that at all. Like, you know, obviously I don't understand that, but the character, to some degree, there's a way in which she's cut off from her femininity, her female side of herself, you know, and she's in this male world, and she's in a dark world. So she's always in the dark, you know, or she's in her apartment, which is behind glass or suspended above the earth. Like she's constantly cut off. And I'm not saying that men are cut off and women aren't. I'm saying that she is using this world to hide out in. And so if you think about, there's nowhere, like if you think about a breast cancer, and you're going into a world of women, and those women are going to challenge her. And so to me, it's like an integration. And there's a term, I think, in screenwriting, doppelganger, which is the person the character is going to be if they don't make any shift or change in their life. And the cynical, morbid, kind of morbidly depressed comics are who she will be if nothing changes, you know. And it's where her comfort zone is when we meet her. There's, I guess, I've always observed here as well in Ireland with our humor, and I'm cultured in it myself, and I love it. And yet at the same time, there is a deep cynicism at the heart of it, which is self-protective shell of whether it's self-effacing or smarter than witty. You know, witty means I am demonstrating my smarts, and sometimes it can feel like a pissing competition. And you know, and I think women shouldn't. That's great for men because they love that. And if you're a woman and you love that, great. But there's lots of other ways to be funny. And just because our like, if you look at in the film, the ways the characters are funny together even are different. You know, it's a different humor. And so, I mean, for me, I haven't even thought about it until you asked, but I think maybe there's a question around diversity of humor, you know, and it's dominated by maybe a particular kind. There's nothing wrong with that humor, but is that the only kind of humor? And she's slotting into a place where the life is being, you know, is just like etching out of her. So it's what does it take to bring that life back into her? And for the humor to be real, like she has laughs with the women that are genuine and full of life and connect her, you know, whereas the lads who are hilarious, the three, you know, not to ruin anything, but this, you know, recurring comedians, and they're very funny and they were brilliant. And but it is all one-upmanship, you know.
And I think but I think Irish, obviously women are hilarious, but I just think Irish women are so funny. And even when, like, there was moments in the film where I can't imagine it was like, this is a funny bit, and it was actually, like, for me, the receptionist at the hospital was so great. And she, like, we all know a receptionist like that, like a girl like that. And I just thought she was so great. But
She's fantastic.
So great. But then moving on to the women then. So the tribe of women in the chemo room, kind of, Ruth, chat me through the casting process for that, because I imagine it was so important to get that balance of kind of chemistry through all the women and all the different characters and the clashing, or if there is kind of the right amount and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when Jean and I were writing they're all obviously completely created by us, and it's like anything, it's like they come through, and when they start to come through, they're a bit two-dimensional, and they're like, oh, that's kind of stereotype of this kind of woman or that kind of woman. And then you just dig, like, you know, you dig into them and go, okay, who are they really, and what's really going on in their life? And, you know, I think it's probably similar to an actor's process where you just really have to understand them. And so what might look like a two-dimensional, okay, spoiled middle class, you know, woman, Dublin, South County Dublin woman, you just dig in and go, well, what's going on in her life, in her family, and our older rural Irish woman, or, you know, gay woman. Like, it's like, once you give the characters their own real, like any writer would know that, I guess, once you give the characters their real identity and their own worlds, and then you put them together, then there's the chemistry. And then when you're casting, I found the casting process so fascinating. And you know, I hadn't cast a feature film before, and I worked with Amy and also Tony Deegan, who produced the film. I think was fantastic in terms of, it was like we had a very similar sensibility. It was like a hot cold button. And one of the things I learned was that, you know, you see a lot of actors and they are all good and they're just bringing a different option to the part. But I would be a believer that a creative process or project has its own pulse. And my job is to match the character of that pulse to the best of my ability. And so as soon as I saw Gemma-Leah's self-tape, I don't think we saw you 4 times, Gemma-Leah, because I remember just looking at the self-tape and you didn't look like anything. Did I? I apologize for that, because as soon as I saw you, I thought, well, now I can make the film.
The third time, it's so funny, because the third time I was just like, I was on to my agent, I was just like, for God's sake, I need this part.
They're making you work for it.
I know, they really do.
Yeah.
But then that was when I went in and they took loads for ages, and I think I read again, and then you offered me.
Yeah, it was so interesting, because it was I do remember the feeling I had was relief. And that was and like Gemma-Leah at that time had her hair dyed blonde, and you were like,
was it pink? It could be pink.
Probably blonde or pink or something. It was more that I felt her off of you, and there's a big relief. If you don't have that, you are going to walk into as a director, you have to have that, because every single day is built on that. So if you don't have that sense that you have matched the character to the role and the actor to the role, like it can then take all sorts of shapes. It can change. It's not like it can morph. But it has got that fundamental pulse that matches it. For you, for the part, like another director would make equally powerful film with another actor and a different interpretation of that story. So it's firstly to be true to what it is that you as a storyteller are feeling off of the work, and then matching the actors and everything that you're making is just listening to that and going, is this part of this story? And I felt that very strongly, and I felt about all the cast, actually. So I mean, and that's one of the reasons why I think we were able to move fast, shoot fast, and get very nuanced emotional work, because I think every single cast was able to connect to that pulse for whatever that pulse is.
Absolutely. And I think all of the women all had their own little thing, but they all felt so fleshed out without taking away from Kate's story. Like they were so vital to Kate's story. And
oh god, yeah,
even I actually really loved the parallel of Kate's mom in a way to kind of Fiona, because like off the bat like that, you would go, kind of your South Dublin woman maybe cares about what she looks like and all that. So again, it's another comment on judging people before you know them. And then another kind of relatable thing, all of the women are so relatable, but another thing as well with Helen, played by Dervla Crotty, who regrets things in her life, really speaks to a lot of people of regrets in their life and trying not to have as many. And then also with Roisin, I think we all have a Roisin in our lives, the kind of with the wise old owl to go to advice or for uplifting. So I thought the dynamic of all the women was really beautiful, and there's a really strong sense of kind of sisterly solidarity and camaraderie. So Ruth, I know that before The Bright Side you did the TV series of Her Story, Ireland's Epic Women. So dealing with stories about inspirational women is well in your repertoire. So I'd love to ask the both of you, maybe Ruth first, if you had women in your life that have gotten you through hard times or have been of inspiration.
Absolutely. It's funny, in losing my sister, I had a really strong realization. The difference between heartbreak when you go through it alone and when you go through it with other people is night and day. And it doesn't take away from heartbreak. Heartbreak is heartbreak, and grief and loss, and we all go through it differently, and we all react differently. But both my brothers and my sister, I think we were for better or worse, we're very close siblings. And I remember my brother saying at one point, you cut one of us and the others bleed. It's like, it's not healthy. Like, I'm sure psychotherapists would say we're enmeshed or like whatever. But at the same time, I'm very close to my older sister Deborah as well, and Mago, who I lost, was a dear friend. But I have been very fortunate in my life to have had and have really good female friends. And you know, I heard something a couple of years back, some podcast, some neuroscientist kind of shit I listened to. Anyway, he was talking about why like meditation came out of the East, and he was saying, however, it doesn't work for women the same way. Now, he said the reason being that there are certain chemicals released in the brain of a man when he meditates, and the equivalent is for women is other women. And I thought, wow, isn't that interesting? Now, this may all be, I can't even quote who it was around. So it's like, I did hear it, but and I, you know, I meditate like the next, I love I love stillness and I love all of that. But I do think that there is a healing and an exchange of energy, put it that way, between women that men don't need in the same way. They don't crave it, and they like their company in a different way. But there's this full-on connection and intimacy in a funny way, and it's often very much fueled in humor as well, and also oversharing and you know how you meet two women meet, and it's like how fast before they start to overshare about their person. And then they're comfortable. Okay, now I've told you about my
just put them in a bathroom at a club or at a bar,
exactly.
And you got best friends for life. Yeah,
and there was always a quality of that I felt was in the recipe for this film, and it does get, you know, we're talking about, there's so many different types of cancer, and you know, you're talking about breast cancer, but whatever disease or illness or heartbreak or fucking awfulness that we all go through, just to have for men to have women and for women to have women. Men have each other in a different way, but there is something in that, come here, I'll hold you, you know, and just be with you, or you know, or I'll tell you what's what and challenge you, you know, and put you in your box, or I'll make you like there is a quality to that companionship, that company, that connection, or that is, I think the pandemic has really also highlighted, you know, how much we miss that when we don't. It doesn't even take much, a small bit of it, but without it, it's like your oxygen's dried up, you know. And I don't like huge generalizations, because I think ultimately we're all humans. We all need love. We all need connection, you know. But there is something about camaraderie of female women, and what they can do for each other and do for each other and for children and men, and you know, maybe it's that maternal stuff.
Agreed. And Gemma-Leah, can you follow that?
I don't think I can follow that. I mean, to me, like, my most inspirational woman in my life is my mom, which I'm sure everyone probably thinks their mom's the best, and you know, but my mom's just a really determined little cookie. She's like any pints, like she's tiny, and she's always glamorous, and she always wears heels, and she's just so creative. She's a hairdresser, and she's always just reached for the stars, and nothing's ever stopped her, you know, and she's accomplished so much in her life. And she's always just been like, do whatever you want to do and go after your dream. And I always wanted to be an actor, and never wanted to be anything else. And everyone always told me it was ridiculous. And, you know, in school, it was like, get a real job and all this stuff. And she was always just the person who's always supported me through everything, through every bad audition, to every good audition, to the highs and the lows. And kind of just, you know, life is for the taking. She's just taught me so much. She'd definitely be the person that I would say is my most inspirational. I'm sure maybe your mothers are both, I don't know. But to me anyway, she is, you know, she's like my rock as well, and she keeps me grounded, and she's always just so excited. I don't know, she's just a loving person. So that's I know. But I have loads of like amazing women friends. I don't have many friends. I have really good friends, and I have loads of women that I'm surrounded by as well, who are there for all the highs and lows as well. So I'm very, very blessed with the people who are in my life. And you know, who knows, there'll probably be more coming in and out, because that's what happens in life. You meet people that come in and out.
Exactly. I always call my mom my walking CV. So I mean, if you can't have that, you know, like we just go
in there and tell everyone.
Yeah. It doesn't even need prompting. It's just straight in. Niamh's done this, and this. I mean, you can't ask for anything better than that. No. But what for guy, I'm so excited for so many people to see this. But what would one thing that you would like audience members to kind of take away from The Bright Side?
But you know what I would love is that it, you know, when I watch it, I see one thing and feel one thing, but I'd love for people to just connect to it themselves, and it's that the film is a kind of film provides a space for people to lose themselves and find something for themselves in, if that's not too esoteric a desire to have. But it's not that I want them to experience A, B, and C. If anything, I love when people come and say, oh, do you know what, that was amazing when such and such happened. And I go, did that happen? I didn't see, that wasn't what I read. But I often think really good pieces of work have that capacity, that they're, depending on the lens you're looking at or the way you're feeling, then so I would love for it to have that capacity for people, that they find something in it that it affects or gives them something. Yeah.
I'd probably just say the same thing, to be fair. I think that's like, it's like, what do I look for when I go to see a piece of work? And I think for it to go on a journey, to get moved, and then sometimes for it to stay with you, and whether it's a bad thing or not, because sometimes you see things and you're like, that was a piece of, and you can be like going on about it, but that's still done something to you, right? So I don't know, I feel like, I'm obviously hoping people don't do that when they see this, but I'm hoping that they that it moves them somewhere or speaks to something, because as well, and it touches on so many subjects. Cancer, yes, friendship, yes, depression, yes, lost people being lost, especially with COVID as well. Everyone's
isolation,
so lost. Isolation. Everyone's so lost, and everyone just needs to talk to each other and be there for each other and be kind, and so hopefully if people go see it, they come away moved with something, get something out of it. Basically, that's what I'd like. I
mean, to me, it's a film about surrender, actually. And I'm not saying, I don't even know if anybody else would find that about it, but it's it's kind of what she goes through in order to say yes to being alive. And I just feel like that's what I took. That speaks to me a lot from my own experience of great loss, is that just living on, to what degree can we live unconditionally? To what degree can we still kind of go, right, you're heartbroken, you've lost something, or, you're grief stricken, or whether it's huge disappointment or pain, but can you then, okay, it's utterly mysterious. It's an absolute mystery. So am I going to throw my toys out of the cot because I it's not working in the shape that I want, or am I going to go with it? And I feel like that's the central question for me that I was exploring, and that now somebody else watching the film will probably get something entirely different, so yeah.
I think as well, for me as a viewer, especially after the last year, and I love that it's not about COVID, which is great, but it actually felt really relatable. After this last year, is that no matter how awful you feel, physically, mentally, or environmentally at the moment, like that, as you said, like to just be in the moment and push through that, like it will be okay. And I think that is such an important message to put out. And I think that was just done really beautifully. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I used to be embarrassed about not being nihilistic, because if you're a really good filmmaker, life is shit and then you die, and then you go to Cannes. Sorry, but it's not. It's like the idea of any kind of things will be okay has been cannibalized by Hollywood, and in a way, I feel it's important to take back the fact that my experience of life is that the closer you go to emotional pain, the more chance there is of going in it and through it and out and into peace. And that can be made trite, but actually, if it's not made trite, and if it's tracked correctly, or expressed correctly, maybe, to me, that's what I'm interested in life and in art. I mean, everything else is just a repetition of the same old shit that you do day in, day out. So that's not interesting. The interesting is the moments when will you do it differently? Yes. So anyway,
that's what cliches though, isn't it? Cliches are there for a reason, right? Like everyone's always like, oh, it's a cliche. It's like, well, because you know what I mean? Life is hard. You have to go through it,
Exactly. So when can people see it? It's going to be coming out soon in Ireland and kind of online in the UK as well. Tell us about that.
Well, its release date is 20th of August here in Ireland, and coincidentally, it's part of the Edinburgh Film Festival, which is fantastic, and it's getting its UK premiere, and that's 2 screenings on the 19th and 20th, same day, and then 72 hours online afterwards. People can buy in the UK. It's geo-blocked to the UK, so people in the UK can see it for those couple of days if they so wish, which would be great. Love people who might be listening to this to go, and I hope they feel inspired to go watch it.
I think everyone needs to know what was said in the lake now after this story. We've done a really nice little kind of cliffhanger there. You need to go and watch what was said in the lake. But Ruth and Gemma-Leah, thank you both so much for coming on to the Irish from London podcast. And I wish you both the best with this, the journey of the bright side, and then just your future successes in general. And we hope to see you soon at Irish from London. Fingers crossed, maybe we can do an event in the future, a real life event.
A real, I know. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us on.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
And that's it from us here today. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to Ruth and Gemma-Leah for coming on again to chat to me today. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and YouTube, the whole shebang. And while you're at it, definitely also check out our current summer film programme that we have for you on our website in the Irish Film From Home section, where you can watch some amazing shorts all from the comfort of your own home. And if you enjoy our podcast and our regular shorts programmes that we have for you, definitely do consider becoming a member to support us and to get free access to a lot of great films and to attend exciting events in the future. A final thank you to the Irish Emigrant Support Programme and Culture Ireland, who've been brilliant supporters of ours for years. Gur Míle Maith. The Irish Film London podcast is produced by me, Niamh Brannigan. We're edited by Owen Bill Cliff, and our theme music is by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you soon.